Welcome back. This is Daybreak, and thank you for staying with us. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. On my far right is Mohamed Ado, ODM party member, the lawmaker representing Wajir South constituency. Gladys Bose is the woman MP of Uasin Gishu County and the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly. Councillor Nelson Havi also joins us, as well as Nyandarua County Senator John Medhu. I thank you for staying with us here on the broadcast. Coming to you first, Council. On the 8th of April 2024, President Ruto announced the dissolution of ID vetting committees and directed the Ministry of Interior to develop new procedures to enable the affected communities to be easily identified and registered. The President was in Northeastern last week. What do you make of the statement he made in Wajir and Garissa counties, much to the welcome of the leadership from the region, but to the dissatisfaction of other leaders across the political spectrum? And is it a complete politicization of a rather important matter?
What we must acknowledge, and this is fundamental, one is a Kenyan not on account of his or her registration, but by virtue of birth. So to the extent that this vetting was discriminatory of people in that region, the move is welcome, and it must be lauded. But when that is said and done, there appear to be a deliberate attempt, which has been alluded to by those in the political field, that this is an overture by President William Samoei Ruto to reach out to more voters in that region. And there is imminent fear that there is a possibility of people who are not Kenyans ending up on the register. The extent of the credibility of that fear is one that is without my ability to evaluate. But when that is said and done, it cannot be gainsaid that everybody who is a Kenyan is entitled to be registered as a Kenyan, and this vetting is something that ought to have been done away a long time ago. Should we leave it at that, or do we also interrogate what happened thereafter when the president went to Isiolo? It is my honest view that the shouting is not the best way of persuading anybody in a communication. It is said that the youth heckled the president. Look, with tremendous respect, I think the president also heckled the people of Isiolo. And when you heckle other people, why should you be surprised when they heckle back? You know, when I grew up in this village in Nangili, I used to visit my uncle Ateka at Mitimoja. And at one point in time, we were sent to chase away monkeys. And we started stoning those monkeys. And the monkeys picked stones and stoned us back. I think we need to have a situation whereby everybody respects each other. Okay. The people should respect the leaders, and the leaders should respect the people. We traversed the entire country seeking for votes, and we were very persuasive. We never shouted, we never heckled. Neither were we heckled, because there was communication. The moment there is a breakdown of communication, there will be that perception that somebody is heckling at you. But look at the mirror. If you're heckling at the people, they will heckle back at you. Okay,
Senator Medhu, what do you make of the president's order in the counties of Wajir and Garissa, given that he ordered the doing away with the ID vetting committees, and the ministry therefore directed to come up with other measures to ensure that the process that leads to the issuance of identity cards to Kenyans ought to be seamless and transparent and unfair?
Well, I would want to look at this matter this way, Ayub. Why was the vetting initially a requirement for anybody to be registered as to get an identification? Because, as Wakili has aptly put it, you are Kenyan by birth, by naturalization, which is a very difficult process. So let us say by birth. So we want the people of Kenya, the citizens of Kenya who have been born in Kenya, to be registered as citizens of this republic. Let me say this, Ayub. I have read history, quite some bit of it, because I'm not some things that have happened. I was a young person then. From my reading of history, before 1991, between 1963 and 1991, Kenyans were getting visa on arrival at the United Kingdom. Once they visited Britain, they would get a visa on arrival. That particular privilege, because I would call it a privilege, was stopped at around 1991 onwards, when the government of President Said Barre was overthrown and he ran to Kenya, and most of the citizens of Somalia ran to Kenya because of the civil war that came after it. So the risk of us as the people of Kenya getting other people from other republics joining and coming to Kenya, if you ask the leaders from those border countries, they'll tell you that vetting was an extremely important and an extremely rigorous process, so that we distinguish the Kenyans who are of, of whatever origin, of whatever tribe, of whatever, wherever they come from, but they are Kenyans. That vetting was to just prove that Ayub Abdikadir is a Kenyan and was born in Kenya, because our borders are quite porous. People can cross through from Eritrea, our neighbors and many other countries, Somalia, and this puts this country at very serious risk if, and the governor for the Trans Nzoia actually said, at some point we will register people who are not Kenyans and they will rise to very high positions in Kenya. So I do not think, in my opinion, it was right, or time is ripe, even as we juggle with the balance between not discriminating Kenyans, but we cannot run the risk of having people who are not Kenyans being registered in Kenya is higher than the risk of the people who are Kenyans not getting registered.
Okay, so this was meant to apply, Senator Medel, to understand it, to communities along the border.
It was meant for communities along the border.
Yeah.
Yes.
To just give it for context purposes, Senator Bill Okero had written an op-ed this weekend where he explained how his grandkids who were born here in Nairobi County, when their parents applied for the passports of their kids, they were told to bring 6-month-old children or kids for vetting. What, for example, would a 6-month-old kid tell, or what will he or she say in a vetting?
Well, I don't think that would make any sense. I don't think a 6-year-old, or even a 6 months, or even a 6-year-old kid would say in a vetting. They're just kids. They do not know, even if they are born in Nyandarua, Uganda, whatever. They do not even know where they are. They're being born. So maybe what we would have done is to make that process of vetting a bit neat and a bit better, not doing away with it entirely.
Yeah. And you mentioned, Mohammed, I'm coming to you shortly, Honorable Gladys. You also mentioned the 1991 collapse of the Siad Barre government in Somalia. What was the correlation between the collapse of the central government in Somalia and the UK government demanding for visa upon arrival at Heathrow Airport in London?
I've just given my perspective on the nexus between that privilege being cut. The reason, after Said Barre, when he was withdrawn, his first place that he ran to was in Kenya. He came to, I think, Serena. And most of the citizens of that republic, if we had a civil war in Kenya, would run to our neighbors. So the most convenient place to run to was in Kenya. So I think it was now difficult for the government of UK, in my opinion, to distinguish between the Kenyans who are born here and the other people who came from other places.
But Somalis who fled the conflict following the collapse of the central government were registered by the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, and they were in the Dadaab refugee camp, is it? What specific correlation is there between the demand for visas and the cancellation of that privilege you said and the collapse of the central government in Somalia? You
see, one thing led to the other. First of all, you need to appreciate that one thing led to the other. It is out of the collapse of the central government of Somalia that the Kenyans were now required to give or not to get visas before they leave this republic. It is out of that collapse of that government It is not, you know, not everybody was registered as a refugee. I mean, some people came and they settled here.
Okay. Mohammed, what was the reception on the part of the leadership in northeastern Kenya?
Look, I was present at the ceremony where the president signed out, vetting when people are acquiring national ID cards. And I stood there thinking that this is such a momentous, moment for Kenyan Somalis. People who, since independence, have been on the periphery of the Kenyan society, who have had laws fomented in this country, to try and exclude them, marginalize them. And I've lived, in that, I was born and bred in that region, lived through the exclusion and the marginalization, the constant torture, the constant attacks, police brutality, up to and including massacres. Malkamari massacre, Wagala massacre, Garissa massacre, and all the other atrocities, to the extent that this country needs an indemnity act to protect those people who perpetrated human rights abuses. Till this day, when we pride ourselves with having one of the most, one of the best constitutions in the African continent, if not the world. Now, standing there right next to the president as he signed that document, I thought this was like another Independence Day and a real opportunity for us to join mainstream Kenya once and for all. Because I know how indignified the vetting process has been. That your government is assuming, as you stand there, filling your forms, that first of all, you're not a national of that country. It doesn't matter how long you've lived. It doesn't matter who and where you come from, as long as you look, the way you look. You're looked at with suspicion. That, I don't know anything more indignified than that. Mm-hmm. So getting that out of the way really, really, boosted the morale of the people of northeastern Kenya. And we thank the president for doing that, because he has spotted, he has identified something his predecessors have not, or chose, to ignore. President Kenyatta was the emergency rule. We suffered under him, no doubt about it. And history tells us all this. Daniel Arap Moi was a continuation of the massacres and the persecution of the people of Northeastern. Kibaki is where we had a little bit of reprieve, where we first saw the first few kilometers of tarmac in our lifetimes. But he chose not to sign the Indemnity Act, choosing to protect those people who perpetrated atrocities against the people in northeastern Kenya. And then we had Uhuru, who took us even further than, Moi, and, with all the extrajudicial killings and, fighting our education system, returning 5,000 teachers in one go. We had so many issues at Uhuru. So for us, President William Samoei Ruto is a hero.
Okay, and I'll have a graphical representation. First, I have to get to Honorable Gladys, because it appears that it's out with the old and in with the old, because there seems to be even further rigorous processes that we'll be taking a look at the policies laid down by the State Department for Immigration. I'll be taking that stuff shortly. But Honorable Gladys, what do you make of this a rather important matter? It's a serious divide between nationality, the dignity of Kenyans' rights vis-a-vis the politics that we are seeing. How should we be approaching this? Because in the end, it's a national security matter. It's also a stability matter that matters to the Kenyan people.
I think it's about time that this actually happened. Because if you look at Article 14 of our Constitution, it says proof of birth is sufficient to guarantee citizenship. So if you look at the Registration of Persons Act, Section 6 and I think Rule 4, it just says that you should have a birth certificate. That should be sufficient for you to get to be guaranteed citizenship. So vetting actually had no law. There was no legal framework supporting vetting. It was just something that was manufactured, and it went on. So in fact, what it did now, it gave personal discretion to decide whether you should be a citizen or not. And it was not underpinned under any legal framework. And that's why I think it's good now that we've gone back, we are following our constitution. We know what is required for you to be able to guarantee citizenship, because it also, you were at the whims of whoever was in that security committee. If they didn't like your face, and then there was also a lot of complaints about bribery sometimes for people to be able to for the vetting to be approved and so on. For other people, it was delayed until they paid money and so on. So I think it's a good thing that let's go back to the constitution. And even if the immigration authorities want to come up with a legal framework, let them come with proper rules that are not biased and doesn't allow anybody to suffer in the hands of a few people. So I think what the president has pronounced, he's just pronounced the constitution.
Okay, let's take a look. I'll come to you, Senator. I'll look at what was done away with. So let's look at the structure. For a moment, we can look at that monitor screen. Stafford, if you can have what was done away with. This is the dissolved vetting ID committees, how it looked like. So when you walk into the room where you will be vetted, the Deputy County Commissioner is the chairperson of the now disbanded committee. Then there is the Civil Registration Officer. Then there's the Registration Officer. And then 3 elders nominated by the community, and the chiefs and the assistant chiefs. So this is what was basically the structure of what we had initially. And you have to provide afterwards, after the chiefs and the assistant chiefs, the proof of citizenship. In that regard, you have to present your birth certificate, the parent or the guardian's ID, or the notification of birth if you were born in a hospital, and the letter of introduction from the chief or the assistant chiefs. Now, the new guidelines will be taking a look at Stafford for avoidance of the mix-up. This is what now is followed up by the Ministry of Interior that came up with the guidelines. Thereafter, then the parents or the guardian thumbprint, which is followed up from the chief again, and then your application will be forwarded to the Directorate of Criminal Investigations and the National Intelligence Service for additional verification for you to get your identity card. So, Council Harvey, more or less, is this then a replica or a sneaking back of further vetting of Kenyans? What's the difference?
Look, it's been tampered a little bit, huh? But look, my point will be this. What is the harm in registering anybody found within the borders of Kenya who there is no doubt was born in Kenya? Ideally, there is no harm. And the Constitution has guaranteed that right. The fear that has been manifest over the years is infiltration, fear that individuals with questionable characters will be registered. But so what? Even within Kenya itself, we have so many individuals with questionable character. So let's just get away with this thing. I remember the late Dr. Sam Nujoma speaking. He said, Namibia is for Africa. It is for Zambia. It is for Zimbabwe. It's for all of us. These boundaries were created for administrative reasons. But the moment you are found in Kenya, give everybody found in Kenya a national ID. And to the extent that we need to remove this vetting process, we'll be getting rid of corruption. I can tell you without any fear of contradiction, the people pay as high as hundreds of thousands to get registered as Kenyans, to get a passport. What for? When you remove these obstacles, you will get rid of corruption. And I think there'll be fewer individuals who are not entitled to that citizenship who will even attempt to apply. Yeah. You get it?
And Council, no Kenyan should be subjected to extra vetting, is it? It's unconstitutional.
It is unconstitutional.
I mean, citizenship by birth is automatic.
Yes. You remember when we were dealing with this issue for Miguna, and there was a contestation as to whether it should be given his Kenyan passport back, having taken a Canadian passport. And the court determined, I mean, you don't even need a birth certificate because, you know, like they will tell you in Northeastern, mothers give birth on their way to grazing fields, on their way to oasis. Where will they get a birth certificate?
And is
there are ways of proving that a child has been born in Kenya? I mean, even just the clinic card for vaccinations is sufficient. So even if you're born at home, you'll at some point end up in a clinic to have vaccination. So I think what had happened was this was something that was created, and I think it was a reaction to what Senator Methu is saying, to when the UK started vetting Kenyans, because they were worried that they were saying Somalis had come into Kenya and were making their way to the UK. So it was a reaction. So now, in order for us to appease the UK government, then they created the vetting. So it was not founded in any law or logic at all. And if you look, it was basically mostly geared to people who are in the border, which was mostly Somalis, people of Somali origin, and then also people in Busia. Because at that time, when there was a civil unrest in Uganda, people were coming through. So you can see it was targeted, but it was more to appease these other foreign countries.
I think it was much deeper than that.
Okay,
it was much deeper than that. Trying to tie the issue of vetting when people are acquiring passports or ID cards is just a continuation of the policies the state has visited upon the people of Kenya since independence, because they've always been the other Kenya. To the extent the people from the region, when they're coming to Nairobi, say, we're going to Kenya. And all these noises you're hearing now, castigating the president for taking out vetting, is part of the nostalgia people have for the moments and times when the Kenyan Somalis were
it's unconstitutional.
It is definitely unconstitutional. I mean, most of the things that...
I'm surprised that somebody has never... All these people who are involved in public interest litigation have never challenged it.
Yeah,
in fact, you ask yourself, Okiya Omtata, why hasn't he challenged this?
But what's the difference, Honorable Gladys and Honorable Mohammed, between what was done away with and the new guidelines that the Ministry of Interior had launched on the 10th of April 2024, we had just run on the monitor screen? Because in the end, these are the new guidelines. Look, you have the parent, guardian thumbprint. You have to do a follow-up from there's another slide we need to first start with for the new guidelines. Stafford? For the new guidelines. Before that, Yes.
But those guidelines still have to come to the Committee on Delegated Legislation in Parliament.
But
so
why will the approval then, I mean, Honorable Gladys, why then will the approval of any Kenyan be again sent for review to the DCI and the National Intelligence?
That's why...
What was the difference? Because the initial committee also had...
It was the same thing.
Precisely the point.
Yes.
I mean...
So those guidelines...
How does this address the problem?
Those guidelines are going to be challenged.
Yeah.
The good thing is that those regulations have to come to the National Assembly. They'll come to the Committee on Delegated Legislation, who will interrogate it, and they are required to undertake public participation. And I'm hoping that the people from those border regions that are affected should speak very vocally about it.
Yeah.
You must come before that committee. And I'm asking Mheshimiwa here that he has to make sure that you come and raise that issue, because we are going to make sure that you cannot have different regulations for other Kenyans, different Kenyans.
Exactly.
You cannot do that.
The point is, let's take a look at what then are the new guidelines.
It's the same rule must apply to all Kenyans.
Precisely the point. And this is what I'm getting at. Stafford, if you can have, there we go. The proof of citizenship, the new guidelines now, then you present your birth certificate and the parent or guardian's ID, the letter of introduction from the chief, and then we move to the next.
It's the same problem.
Then thereafter, after you present the letter, the parent or guardian thumbprint is required. The follow-up from the chief, again, you have to get back to him. And then the application is forwarded to the DCI and the National Intelligence Service for additional verification. I mean... No,
it's worse, actually.
So
it's worse than what we had.
Yes, Councillor.
That's what I'm saying. This will come to Parliament and we'll have to challenge it.
So what was the point of the president then doing away with that?
No, I think the president pronounced himself on article... What he was saying is Article 14.1 should apply to all Kenyans. That proof of birth is sufficient to guarantee you citizenship. The president has pronounced the constitution. Now, what will happen is sometimes when the president has pronounced something, then the implementation is different. But when we see that, that's definitely going to be challenged.
And this is what the government came up with. I mean, so therefore, yes, let me get Senator here.
Okay, let me first say this. I think I do not want to agree with the Honorable Mohammed that the people who are against this process are nostalgic. It is love for our country. Everybody wants a safe country, including people from Northeastern, people from whatever region of this republic. It is love for this country. And maybe for the comfort of the members who are in this panel. All those guidelines that you've given there, maybe I do not know why we want to make it look like it has been made very difficult. That last step is what is different from every person of Kenya. The one that requires the DCI and otherwise for the introduction by a chief, it is something that happens in Mumias, something that happens in Soi, and something that happens everywhere. You have to get that approval by the chief for anybody who gets registered. So I actually want to agree. What we want is that the people who are registered as citizens of this republic are actually in accordance with the law. That not what Nelson Havia said, that if you're in the boundaries of Kenya, you are registered. That is not what the law says. The law says that if you are born in Kenya, you are registered as a Kenyan. Not that if you are found within the borders of the Republic of Kenya, then you are registered.
No, but Senator, if you are born within the boundaries of Kenya.
If you are born within the boundaries of Kenya, you are registered. You are
whether it's Lamu, whether it's Busia, whether it's Mandera, that's citizenship, automatic citizenship, isn't it? And if one of your parents is a Kenyan, and why then, do you agree first with the new guidelines by the Minister of Interior?
I think I do.
You do?
I think I do.
Why should Kenyans be vetted for rights that they are entitled to under the Constitution?
Let me say this, and I think I'll just be repeating what I've said. We only want what all of us are saying, that the Kenyans who are registered, there is proof that they are Kenyans who are Kenyans. Not Kenyans who are not people from other places who just come and say that I am born in Kenya. What is the proof that I'm born in Kenya? There must be some proof that
birth certificate.
Yes, there must be some. Whatever you're saying is
your parents' identity card.
There must be some proof that this right that I am entitled to, I am actually entitled to it. That is just what we are saying.
No, but for me, what I have a problem with is that if we leave it to personal discretion. For me, I've seen many people who are not actually Kenyan citizens, but because they can corrupt the system, they can talk to the chief, they can talk to who, and eventually get citizenship. Then the ones who are genuinely citizens, because they can't afford to pay that money, don't actually get the citizenship. So I would like us to have a system that is free of personal discretion. Then we are good.
And applies to all. Yes, Mohammed.
What Senator Methu is advocating for is a set of rules for one part of Kenya and a set of rules for the other part of Kenya. And that is what we have a problem with. Who says that the chief in Northeastern cannot be trusted enough to identify a bona fide Kenyan when he comes for registration as a national of this country, and also identify a foreigner when they come to him asking for a letter? Who is it? I mean, that's what happens in other parts of the country, right? It's the chief who identifies, writes a letter. And again, have we not been the first line of defense this country has had? And if we are not the people who are defending this country at the borders, because we are the ones who are best placed to know somebody out to cause mischief in our nation, I mean, are we considered less patriotic than other Kenyans? And if we were not the ones, people guarding their camels when they see anything untoward, anyone with a gun, are the ones who are reporting back to the authorities. We have been the first line of defense, and I think we can be entrusted enough to give the national identity papers to only those who deserve. But asking for a different set of rules, up to and including taking our papers to the National Security Intelligence and CID, is only going to confirm what we've had since 1963, which is This is a marginalized community, not considered fully Kenyan, and should always be dealt with suspicion. Okay. That is what we are against.
And these guidelines, Mohammed, the new ones, Councillor, I'll come to you, is what the Ministry of Interior had presented at the Kenya School of Government in April last year when the President made announced the dissolution of the vetting ID committees. Will you reject this? Does this address your problem?
I will reject it based on the last point where they are asking for the applications to be referred back, because that takes an unnecessarily long time. There are people who've been waiting for ID cards for the last 10 years, some of them 20 years, some have actually given up. And that process is only going to show us that nothing much has changed despite the President's declaration.
Okay. Yes, Council.
You know, we have a bad culture in Kenya. The President did not give the people of Northeastern anything they're not entitled to.
Exactly.
You understand? And we should stop.
Article 40.
We should stop praising him for doing the right thing. Therein lies the mischief. And you see what, my honourable good friend, you guys have been in Parliament. You have the capacity to demand what is due to you. And as we speak right now, these regulations that have been put by the Ministry of Interior should not even be a question of debate. Let the Ministry of Interior get rid of them. We do not require a court order to get rid of them. So that, as Madam Speaker Sir has said, when it comes for parliamentary approval, just say no. Because the Constitution has given you the right.
Exactly.
Exactly, yeah.
It's not a privilege. And the earlier we get rid of these interferences with rights, the better we are placed to progress. And what is clear is this, and sorry to say, there is this false construct that people of the Somali origin will always pay money for anything that they need. We must get rid of it. Let them be entitled to an ID and a passport as a matter of right. That way you'll get rid of corruption. And as Madam Speaker said, when you make it free, the possibility that those who are not entitled to it coming to ask for it will diminish. Completely. And you must demand it as a matter of right. Don't clap when the President declares this. Don't. It is your right.
And what do you make and what do you make of the timing of the President making that statement in Wajir and Mandera counties, given that the opposite side of the political divide or the aisle is reading politics to it?
No, but
Madam Speaker, let me just get rid of it. Let them read whatever they want to read. This is a right due to all Kenyans. It doesn't matter the timing. If it is due, it's due. It's quite unfortunate that preceding presidents did not see the propriety of clearing the light on it. Dr. William Samoei Ruto has cleared the light, but demand more. Get rid of these regulations. It is your right. The people of Northeastern must demand their rights.
But this has been a complaint by the people of border counties since time immemorial. It's not the first time. So this has been, in fact, every president that has visited those regions, it's the one thing that the political leaders
have always demanded, yes.
Isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
You've been asking throughout. I don't think from the time of Moi to Kibaki to everybody.
It's just now that we got the goodwill to have it rescinded.
Yes. And you are a parliamentarian. When this comes before the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, of course, the report will be before the plenary at the National Assembly.
Committee of Delegated
Legislation. Will you then make your voices heard, given that what happened was in the being the part of the entourage of the president, it was more or less statements that he made when he was on his car. Would you make your voices heard and the Hansard to record it that you are against even this new process that the Ministry of Interior had outlined as a replacement to the now dissolved vetting committee?
Of course we will, and that's our job. We will do that, and we will keep demanding, and not just for that, but for real inclusion within the nation of Kenya, because that is what is lacking. There are people who feel that they are more Kenyan than other Kenyans, and those are the people who are politicizing the president's move. We are against any exclusion, because a nation that excludes its citizens is only bound to fail. And that's what we don't want for our nation.
Yes, Senator.
Well, let me say this. We'll look at that report if it comes to the Senate, so I will not give any further comment to it. Allow me if...
First, do you agree with the new guidelines by the Minister of Interior?
I think I want to agree with them, and I have given my reasons. But since they will still end up in Parliament, I'm in Parliament, I'll read the report, I will see the public participation, I'll see what people have said, and then I will inform my decision. Okay. So I think I would just want to make a very quick comment on what is on page 1 of the Daily Nation, if you allow me. Agony for youth after Ruto visit.
This was in Isiolo County.
Yeah, because I heard Wakili mention it in passing. I think this is not an easy matter. It's a matter that needs deep interrogation. This, in my opinion, my personal opinion, is a sad state of affairs. If the president visits your area and the next day you are being rounded up because the president feels that he's unhappy, that he was not received as he had expected. And I would want you to, as you read the story, get to understand the charges upon which these people are charged. And I'm happy that the courts actually released them for free. It is my opinion, my very considered opinion, that I think our president is suffering from inferiority complex. There's no other reason why anybody would round up children because he feels that he was not received as he would have wished. One of the captions that have been captioned here is that the next day when they were just arresting people, they were just arresting people who are walking on the road. They are not even sure whether they attended the rally. One of the persons that has been quoted is that somebody was just walking towards going to a shop. The policeman just called him, come, and they put him in the truck. And he has been told that he's in the group that heckled the president. If you look at the headline of the Standard yesterday, the president was being called unpresidential.
Unpresidential.
He was being referred to as an unpresidential president. I think it is my opinion. President William Ruto needs to take a step back. He needs to reflect on him as the symbol of national unity. Whatever he says and whatever words that come out of his mouth, are they bringing unity in the republic? Are they making him and giving the respect that beholds the office of the president? When he just tells people, because they do not feel or they have not been convinced enough on a program that he, in his opinion, thinks is a very good program on vaccination, and people don't agree to it, or some people are actually a bit cautious about it, and then he calls them wajinga. He says that you people cannot advise me because you don't have PhDs. People cannot advise me because they have not been presidents. How many people have been presidents? If anything, then he says that he can only be advised by one person, Uhuru Kenyatta, who has been president. I think those are not words that befit the office and the stature and the person of President William Ruto. But
Senator, to ask you this before I go to council, why did you enable that unpresidential nature as captured by one of the publications, as you have said, and even supported some of the programs of the Kenya Kwanza administration at first?
I want to say this. The last time I was with you here, you know, I have been a very adherent supporter of William Ruto. But there comes a time that you also have to take a step back and look at what are we doing? What are we doing to our people? Are we really doing, are we living up to the promises that we've told to our people? And I wish I came with our Kenya Kwanza manifesto. It was a very good manifesto. You know the programs that we have had for this country, which we have actually now completely veered off. You'll never hear us now speaking about Pesa Mfukoni and the Hustler Fund. You'll never hear the president in his tours. He never speaks about Hustler Fund. It was a backbone of our reviving of the economy. You never hear him now speaking about county aggregation and industrial park. Even the ones that he launched, he never speaks about them again. There's one that was done groundbreaking in Nyandarua, and nobody speaks about it. There's no budget to it. There's nothing to it. And so we cannot still keep on just following and not speak for our people on matters that we think we are. By the way, did you give a critical eye, critical thinking, an interrogation into who you are supporting, which entity you are supporting, and why you are supporting? Because you are one of the vocal cheerleaders in chief of the president in Molo County. I have you on record. We can play that soundbite here. When you called for support of the housing project, and you said, you even quoted the Bible when you attended that church service that the president attended. Stafford, if that's ready, then we can play. Because on accountability note, leadership therefore needs critical thinking. So let's hear what you say, and we'll hold it to account.
sasa tumeshinda.
Nilisoma kuhusu mama fulani ambaye alikuwa anasaidiwa na Elisha. Na akasema Elisha ni mtu mzuri sana. Na akasema Elisha ni mtu mtakatifu. Hasa wakaulizana, hii mtu mzuri na mtu mtakatifu, ni kitu gani tunaweza kumfanyia huyu mtu mtakatifu? Wakapiga hesabu, wamnunulia gari? Hapana. Wamnunulia simu? Hapana. Wakapiga hesabu, wakaona ile kitu anaweza kumfanyia ni kumjengea nyumba. Basi, na yeye William Ruto amechaguliwa amekuwa rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya. Ameangalia watu walimpigia kura, akashangaa, hii watu wazuri hivi nitawafanyia nini? Ameleta mpango ya kuwajengea manyumba. Basi wewe uko katika ile mpango ambayo ndio tumesoma leo na iko kwa Biblia. Na unajua mimi, Your Excellency, mtu mwenye anapinga finance bill ningetaka nijue atakuwa wa dini gani. Kwa sababu finance bill iko vitu yenye tumetoa kwa Biblia. Mimi nimekwambia mimi ni mzee ya kanisa. Chukua Biblia yako, soma John 14 verse 3. Yesu alisema, aliangalia watu akasema, mimi ninaenda mbinguni. Na huko mbinguni sijaenda biashara nyingine. Naenda huko kuwajengea manyumba. Na akasema hiyo manyumba ikimalizika mimi nitakuja kuwachukua. Sasa Your Excellency, hata ndio nilishangazwa na wale watu wa huko Shakahola wenye walikuwa nakataa kukura waenda wakaone Yesu. Hawa hawajasoma Biblia mzuri. Ukisoma hiyo Biblia mzuri inasema Yesu alisema nyumba ikimalizika mimi nitakuja. Haikusema mimi nikikaa nyinyi muache kukura mkuja mnipate huko.
Senator Medho, how do you defend this? I mean, how would the Kenyan people take you seriously?
No, they will have to take me seriously because I am here and I'm the same person. First, you actually need to appreciate looking at the video. It is not a recent video.
It was in 2023.
Yes, even by the way I look now and the way I look then.
You didn't have hair there.
It tells you that, and it tells you the kind of support that we offered to President William Ruto. Because when we started, and you actually know it, we believed in the manifesto, in the dream, in the dream of President William Ruto and our team. But I think down the road, there is some places that we have veered off. And I cannot then still continue clapping on matters that I now feel that, are not in agreement of the things that I agree with as a leader. There were no complaints that time that we were playing that video. There were no complaints. You had never ran a story on abductions, on on issues that are affecting the people of Kenya. First, you cannot blame me because I supported William Ruto. The people who employed you as an anchor, as a news anchor, only knew about your prowess when they actually gave you the job. You may have shown during the interviews that you are a very good person, but down the road, your weaknesses are very glaring. The way President William Ruto speaks now, the things that made him be called unpresidential, he was not speaking then in 2020. He was not speaking the same way in 2023. The President William Ruto that we have in 2025 is not the President William Ruto or the man that we had when we were campaigning. The way he was speaking, the way he was promising, the things that he was promising. Now, let me put it into context, Ayub. I was with President William Ruto on the 5th of January 2023 at a place called Boyman. Now, on that particular day, we were launching a road from Boyman to some place called Siranga to some place called Orkalau. Now, he said that this road will be done in exactly 18 months. In fact, I have ordered the contractor not to leave this place until this road is done.
Okay.
On the very same day that he launched the road, the contractor left. To this minute, not even one shovel of tarmac has been done on that particular road that we have been told will be done in 18 months. Now tell me, my brother.
But Senator, to hold you to account, when the Jubilee Party launched its manifesto seeking a second term from the Kenyan people in 2017, President Ruto made pledges about stadia, which were never completed, the Big Four agenda, which collapsed. So you knew the man from the onset.
No, I cannot say that I knew the man from the onset, because...
I mean, this is public record.
Yeah.
All these were never accomplished.
Allow me to
And then
say,
how easily were you then, sort of in caveats, brainwashed, to accept that he was a good man before the elections and is now a bad man after the election?
he was a good man before election, and I would tell you this. During the second half of the Jubilee administration, you know, William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta were reading from different scripts. In fact, the way we believed William Ruto is because he told us, we have veered off from the Big Four, and this has been my heart. We have gone to BBI, We have gone to reggae since Raila joined the government. I am a very good person. If I was still with Uhuru Kenyatta, because I think, in my opinion, they had done some considerable amount of development in their first term. So I believed, had they been together, they would have done even more in their second half. So there was no reason why I, as John Med, would have any shadow of doubt that William Ruto, and by the way he used to speak, you would not have doubted him. And by the way, if I was to say the same words that I'm saying there, in that particular church that I was, do you think the people would clap as much as they clapped that day?
Because they expect you to be a legislator who is above board and who can critically think and
do you actually
see
think
from a different perspective.
Do you actually think because you have been playing, that's a clip that you played, you have just played this morning of a funeral that we were in like,
yes.
I've always held this premise. Madam Speaker, sir, this what I'm going to say is historical, so shall we maintain silence? I've always held this premise that men and women are never bad, but there are times that their actions are not good. Dr. William Samoei Ruto is one of the best men I've ever come across in my life, and I have no apologies whatsoever for supporting him. Why do I say so? By the time that I made a deliberate decision to support Dr. William Samoei Ruto, I had evaluated the choices, and I've learned to live with the consequences of my choice. Has he become bad? No, he hasn't become bad, but his conduct has become bad, to a large extent because of his associations. And I'll say this without any fear of contradiction, Madam Speaker. There are times we will speak with the Deputy President for hours, giving him advice on what to do insofar as legal matters are concerned. I don't think he listens to us anymore.
You mean the current Deputy President or the former?
Then he was a Deputy President. He listened to us. And it is because of listening to us that we're able to mount a formidable challenge against the onslaught of President Uhuru Kenyatta, against him. That is why we succeeded. He listened. Today, he doesn't listen. I plead with you, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, please just listen to the people who mean well for you. On my part, mimi nimekubali mashtaka, usinifinye sana, nimekubali haya mambo yanitoke.
So you have licked your wounds
makosa yalifanyika. Mutusamehe. And that is the reason why I've said, in no uncertain term, my contract with Dr. William Samoei Ruto was for 5 years. And as the 5 years come to an end, I do not propose to renew it. And that is the reason as to why I've said we need to have David Kenani Maraga as the next president of the Republic of Kenya. And I say this forthrightly, and nobody will fault me, nobody has insurance on me. They know it, they know it, they know it. I speak the truth, and for the good of the people of Kenya. Let's do the right thing.
Okay, and for the umpteenth time. Okay, let's move to Honorable Gladys. Yes, please, Honorable Gladys.
No, you know, I feel very sorry for Senator Matthew and the council here, senior council, Harvey. What's going to, because let me tell you something. I think we are in denial of the transformation that is going on in the country. If you ask yourself today, and I mean, in no other government have we had a situation where hospital bills are paid, everyone is going to be covered for universal health care, regardless of whether you have a job or you don't have a job. We have a funding model that allows every person, whether your family can afford it or not, is going to be paid for up to 90% of their school fees. There is no time that we have deliberately thought about having affordable housing so that people are not living in shacks. You look at the transformation that's happening in the country. You can complain now, but believe me, in a year or two, when you see the transformation, I don't know what you're going to say. You know very well that have you visited Mukuru kwa Njenga to see the affordable housing there?
I think.
Have you?
I think it is the business of those who are in office to do that. It's not my business.
That's what I'm saying. Why are you in denial? Why are you in denial that there is actually work that is going on? and that the country is changing, that there is deliberate steps and efforts to transform our country.
Madam Speaker,
why are you in denial to the fact that for the first time... No, hold on, let me just
think it's only prudent that you people start listening. You've been heckling at us for so long a period. It will only be prudent that you listen so that we make progress. We also want Dr. William Samuel
Council, you have just spoken.
Yeah.
Can you give me a chance to also speak?
Sorry.
I let you speak when you were speaking.
Thank you.
Why is it that you're in denial to the fact that for the first time Kenya did not import sugar?
I don't take sugar.
For the first time, we have other people do. For the first time, we have been able to produce more maize than we have ever produced, or food that we have ever produced, because of having subsidized fertilizer. Today,
last year the fertilizer was fake.
Today, people will tell you that life has changed for them. So I know that.
Why is price of unga high?
Sorry?
Why is price of unga high, beyond the reach of many Kenyans?
No, let me ask you a question. What was the price before 2022? What was the price before 2022, and what is the price now?
Okay.
What was the price of fuel, and what is the price now?
I give you the number.
What is the price of what was the price of electricity, and what's the price now? All of them have come down.
Okay.
So let's not be in denial about that. And so I'm saying, let's not be such toxic, negative people when we can't even acknowledge that some things have changed, and for the better. And the country is moving forward. And I can tell you this without fear of contradiction, and you will prove me right. This country is transforming and is going to transform.
Okay. So I ask you the
question.
question.
So let's not just be negative.
Okay.
No, Dr. William Samuel,
she made her point, so allow me.
If he continues allowing you people to bar him from listening, we will have a problem. And we mean good for this country. We want him to succeed. We have an interest. We need him to succeed. He must listen.
He does listen.
And how has that contributed to Honorable Gladys Bosch-Sholei? Because you have talked about production and fertilizer, but the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics report does not mention the fertilizer subsidy as touted by the administration as a contributing factor to the growth of the sector, because it was riddled with corruption.
What is that?
The fertilizer subsidy program that you have said has led to the boost in production.
No, actually, if you look at the details, is that we have produced more maize than we ever did.
So you mentioned the fertilizer question. I'll come to the maize and the...
No, fertilizer, believe me, I come from a maize and wheat growing area. I come from the bread basket of Kenya, and I know the difference that fertilizer has made. We were paying 7,500 for fertilizer, now we're paying 2,500. That has made a difference, and it has made people be able to grow more crops.
Okay. The point
and there's changes in that, and I think that Kenya National Bureau of Statistics is probably not an updated report.
No, this is 2024, the last quarter. You can't deny this. This is science, and the statistician is always right.
No, but but the question I'm asking you is, what was the price of unga? It had gone to almost 250 shillings.
They cumulatively, considering the purchasing power, give a cumulative increment in what has increased. For example, maize grain has increased by 1.9%.
Yeah.
Beyond the reach of Kenyans.
No, that's not true at all.
This is what the report says from
I'm telling you what I see in the supermarket, at the shops, what people are buying for, and what people are buying for in the village. The gorogoro, the 2 kilogram, whatever cost, has gone down.
And this is in December 2024.
Let's go to the shops. Let's forget what your report is saying. But you choose to carry a narrative of negativity.
No, not negativity.
Maybe Ayub, can I help you?
Order. I'll come to you. We have time, Mohammed. Honorable Gladys, it's an accountability show. I invite you here because the great people of Uasin Gishu County gave you the mandate. And above all, privileged to be the Deputy Speaker. So it's an accountability as to move our country forward. The point I am making is that, for example, if you look at the cost of the basic things, cabbages, oranges, tomatoes, mangoes, if you look at onions, cooking oil.
And you know, three onions cost 100 shillings. Onions.
And this is what the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics...
You should come to my constituency where a kilo is costing just 60.
Yeah, Mohammed, just order, some order. Exactly. So, Honorable Sholei, then how do you prove the justification? Because the Bureau of Statistics says the changes in every retail prices of selected communities in the last 1 month has increased by the standards of what they have posted. This is what the report says. Yes. How then do you justify the numbers that you are given?
I justify my numbers because I know it from the street, from talking to people. Like you said, he's saying 100 shillings is three. He's saying it's 60 shillings a kilo.
Okay. Yeah.
My constituency.
Yes, Senator.
Locally grown.
Okay, yeah, I was saying this, and even as Gladys wants to point to us to negativity, why is it that these things that the president says and his members of parliament who really support him, you don't hear them from the people of Kenya? He has actually said that we have a very good health insurance scheme that now the people of Kenya are very happy. I was attending a Harambe in Nyahururu this weekend because now these are the people that we are offering services. The hospital bill is 1.2 million. SHA has paid 78,000. And you want those people to actually believe that they now have a very good insurance health fund. And they are actually very happy about it. I wonder whether Honorable Gladys Bosch-Sholei actually knows that the funding model that she's speaking about has actually been scrapped now, and they have gone back to the old
There's reconsideration process.
Yeah, they have actually now gone to the old funding model, the one that she's now speaking about, because it was untenable. Why is it that this development that they are saying that Kenya is actually now a changed country, Kenya is a moving country, Kenya is a growing country? Why is it that the people of Kenya cannot actually feel what she's actually saying? Why is it that this development and the things that they are speaking about are only being felt by the president and the members of parliament who actually support him? Why is it that the fertilizer that she speaks about of 7,500, if you go to farmers in Kwaharaka, in Nyakio Ward, in Nyandarua, one of the highest producers of cabbages in Kenya, they will not tell you that they have seen that fertilizer. They actually have given up because they go for the fertilizer in Naivasha. They will go for it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, a week after, 3 weeks, and they never get it. Unless you want to say that this fertilizer is only available to the people of Uasin Gishu.
And why did you support the fertilizer subsidy program by the government when you came to power? Because
when we started, and I've told you,
it was a good idea.
It was a very good idea. We have to increase productivity. If you are able to grow our economy, especially for the agricultural counties, we have to increase our productivity. Why would I not support Ayub? If indeed we are getting fertilizer cheaper than it was supposed to be gotten, but at the Okrao NCPB, people are not getting the fertilizer. At the Naivasha NCPB, people are not getting fertilizer. Okay, if they ever get fertilizer, let me finish. I also didn't disrupt you. If they ever get fertilizer...
I've kept Mohammed in the silence room for...
Okay, yeah, he's actually coming in. Yeah. If they get the fertilizer, and the fertilizer is actually substandard, is of low quality, it has sand, and there are things that we are getting from our people, why then do we continue supporting such a program?
Okay. Yes,
you know, the role of the counties, the county governments, yes. The governors are the ones you should hold to account because they should have made sure that the fertilizer is distributed to every single outlet in the villages. So that, and you are a senator, and you're supposed to oversight governors. So why haven't you asked your governor?
I wish she was honest. If she was honest, she would know that a part of the additional allocation to counties that we passed is fertilizer money to be given to the counties to buy the fertilizer themselves so that they can distribute.
Okay.
But President William Ruto and the administration, they actually refused.
Okay.
So how do you tell me you are the one that is buying the fertilizer, you bring it at your own convenient time, you bring it at the depot, you have your own person at the depot, and then you tell me that you now want me, after it is at the depot, to distribute. We actually
agriculture is devolved.
It's a devolved function. What is William Ruto doing with agriculture?
Okay.
Why is he buying fertilizer if it's devolved?
So this is your problem as the people in government. So it's not us or the president. You are part of Kenya Kwanza. Right?
It is. We are leaders. Yes. We are in parliament. And so when I see a problem, I don't point fingers at the president. I do my role as a legislator. So you as a senator,
as legislators,
you as a senator,
our role by
let me ask her this.
You should summon his governor and ask why it's not been distributed. Today I can confirm to you, like Elgeyo Marakwet County, they have distributed all the fertilizer is in the outlets in
what
the village.
What is saying it's only working in Rift Valley.
Okay. Yeah, you keep quoting Rift Valley.
Of course,
no, but that's your job. What have you done as a senator?
So this is conditional allocation.
Even I, Nelson Havi, am experiencing problems getting fertilizer from NCPB.
Council, order.
And what has Senator done?
I have passed that conditional allocation. I said, give these monies to the governors. What is the national executive doing with the part of agriculture?
That is something that you have proposed. But for now, but I'm just saying for now.
The Deputy Speaker raises a very fundamental question. And allow
what are you doing as a senator? You can't just be complaining like Wananchi.
How independent
it is your job to get solutions.
This is my question, that how independent are you as the woman rep for Uasin Gishu County, for example, to make decisions? That's the question.
What do you mean, what independent to do what?
How independent is Parliament, in your view?
Believe me, there's so many. Parliament is an extremely powerful.
Okay, how
Parliament is a very extremely powerful. Is a very powerful tool that you have. You can raise issues. Like the other day, we know that we had some issues with SHA.
We're out of time.
We got them
the question
to be
is,
summoned.
how independent are you as a member of that house?
I'm independent.
How independent were you, for example, when you look at the 11 charges against Rigathi Gachagua in the bill by Mwengi Mutuse?
Yes, I was very clear.
You did everything by your own?
Yes.
Why did you tell the public that it's President Ruto who directed you?
I was talking in my village. That's a different talk.
Okay. Then for accountability purposes, we can have this brief soundbite and take a look at what you said. You told the President this in December.
You're blowing the wind.
Okay, shortly we'll be getting this. This was in the aftermath of... yes, here we go.
I am grateful to be here to fellowship with you here today. It is a great day, and it's a day that we just give thanks. You know, I'm one of these people, I'm told to speak briefly, I speak briefly. Your Excellency, I'm your loyal foot soldier. When you tell me speak briefly, I speak briefly. If you tell me Gachagua ende nyumbani, Gachagua anaenda nyumbani. So I always follow orders, and I will follow those orders today, and therefore I'll be very brief. I've just come to say thank you, Your Excellency, for supporting this church. I also want to say thank you very much to Honorable Sudi, who spearheaded the construction of this church.
How do you respond to that?
No, by the way, let me tell you. Let me explain to you something. By the way, remember the president, that was his deputy.
Yes.
And by the time we made a decision as a coalition and coalition of other parties that we are going to support this cause, we lobby among ourselves. But of course, you have to ask the appointing authority if it's okay.
Okay.
So it was never about the charges. It was
so let's have the feedback.
The charges. Hold on.
Okay.
The charges also. If you look at the charges, and in fact, when I spoke in Parliament, I said there's no way you can have a deputy president who can stand up in Githurai and supervise a meeting where they're saying Ruto must go. Ruto is a one-term president. Already, he has committed the grossest insubordination they could be. So yes, there were very strong charges against him.
My question
so it's not that. So it was. We reached an agreement as a coalition, but also he himself. There was evidence. There was evidence. There was evidence against him.
So let's sample the feedback briefly. The Kenyan people are also important. I'll give only Mohammed 30 seconds as we round up. Here's what you are saying on X. The hashtag is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422. Politics of who is supposed to go with the parliamentary majority. He means a parliamentary leader, minority speaker, and etc. are just a ploy to divert our attention from the pressing issues. In fact, we are only concerned with the forthcoming AUC elections. Talai_Kilel says, Azimio now officially recognizes the majority in parliament. This could reshape alliances and force some interesting negotiations ahead. Next is Samasik_ says, vetting in Kenya for IDs needs not to be lifted. If only needs to be less discriminative and conclusive, but it is crucial. The foreigners roaming in Kenyan states now need to be contained. Godi Barasawere, it's an absolute failure from the government side in terms of securing her borders. The registrar of persons jobs is ascertaining that the people seeking for the identification are Kenyans. Corruption kicked in. Look where we are. Esau says the vetting process safeguards residents, not infringe on our rights, but when leaders favor populism over security, they jeopardize the future. Short-term gains shouldn't cost long-term safety of the nation. The last one, and Frank Orinde says the new guidelines for registration of ID passport are just but punitive. The president's pronouncement while in a political tour was purely for political expediency to buy in support of gullible Kenyans or people who can't go further to verify. Mohammed, 15 seconds.
Yeah, there was a lot of discussion about...
You've been silent for a very long time.
There was a lot of discussion about agriculture. I too have my beef with agriculture because I believe there's been so much dominance of the wetlands when it comes to agriculture and food production. And it's time to look at the dry lands of Kenya, the arid and semi-arid lands, because therein lies the key to Kenya's food security. And we don't need a lot of fertilizer, by the way. This is land never tilled since the beginning of time.
I'm told out to get because of time is out. Thanks so much for your time, ladies and gentlemen. Much appreciated. Mohamed Ado is the lawmaker representing Wajir South constituency on ODM party. The woman MP was in Gishu County and the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly is with us also in studio is Senior Counsel Nelson Havi. Right to say Senior Counsel?
No, mimi tu ni mtu mdogo.
Okay. And John Meadows,
He's Senior
Counsel. County. Many thanks for your time, ladies and gentlemen. Asanteni sana for your time. And thanks to you too for waking up with us here on the broadcast. Up next is Social Hour with Safin Achieng Oma. We'll see you tomorrow morning here on a special broadcast focusing on the AU elections. Till then, good morning.